For those who don't know, I am an avid supporter of the Gojo return agenda, and I've always believed his comeback is necessary for the eventual defeat of Sukuna. But after some recent events, and how similar said events are to a certain other manga that Jujutsu Kaisen was most definitely inspired from, I'd like to talk about how Bleach, and specifically the events of the fake Karakura Town arc, may prove that Gojo's fate has been sealed. Or in other words, how he is gone and he is never coming back. Now, before we continue with this topic, I think it's necessary to highlight just how similar Bleach and Jujutsu Kaisen are, and the very clear references Gege has made to that particular series. And I do this not to say that one work is just a copy of the other, I'm simply doing it to prove that there are parallels which give more credence to the actual topic itself. I just want to make that clear before anybody gets upset. But before we get any further though, make sure to drop a like. It really helps out videos like these, more than you know, and it lets me know y'all are enjoying the content and want to see more. So thanks for doing that. With all that said, let's get back to the topic at hand. The first thing that I'd like to highlight are actually Gege Akutami's words themselves, because recently in a Q&A for Jump about the series, the interviewer asked how Gege is able to create characters full of personality and charm. Then diving deeper into the question, he asks, and I quote, "Lines and skill names have impressive personality and impact. Is there any reference when choosing a language?" End quote. Gege then goes on to answer by simply saying, "Please read Bleach." And this isn't the only interview where he's discussed Bleach and talked about how it was one of the many inspirations for his series. He even said it was while talking to the actual author of Bleach, Tite Kubo, and we can see this on full display when diving into the manga. Kenjaku, for instance, is basically a watered-down mix of Aizen and Urahara. And Gojo's imprisonment back in Shibuya bears some striking similarities to when Urahara did the same against Aizen. Then there's Yuji Itadori, whose main special move, and basically only special move, is an attack that is coded in red and black. And if you know anything about Ichigo and the Getsuga Tensho, then I need not say more when it comes to that. And while there may be so much more, this last one that I'm going to note ties nicely into the theory, so I'll point it out and we'll continue from there. This last one being Satoru Gojo is the spitting image of Gin Ichimaru. At first glance, you could call this a bit of a reach, but as the story progressed and we got to see Gin open up more, and I mean that in a literal sense, the resemblance then becomes uncanny. Now this is important because I believe, as I mentioned prior, that the fake Karakura Town arc is heavily inspiring the current final arc of Jujutsu Kaisen. And in JJK's final arc, Sukuna represents Aizen, Gojo represents Gin, and Yuji represents Ichigo. Sukuna, this entire time, has been battling almost every single combatant that Jujutsu Kaisen has to offer. Even characters that haven't had a role since the prequel have come back to help in the fight against the King of Curses. Because if Sukuna wins, the world as they know it will change forever, and each time the protagonists think they've gotten the better of Sukuna and that he's up against the ropes, he shows them just how inexperienced and underprepared they truly are for this exchange. Outside of the Urankar being present, this was Aizen's entire motif. He fought the best the Soul Society had to offer, and much, much more. Then each time it looked like the fight was almost over and Aizen's back was against the wall, he overcame and was revealed to be more powerful than anyone originally thought. Plus, if he won, the entire world as they all knew it would change forever. Also, Sukuna is referred to as the Fallen, and even though we don't have a lot of information about that title, and by a lot I mean basically nothing at all, just going off of pure speculation, you can pretty much guess what that's all about, and with that being the case, it's clear that Aizen could be granted that title as well, seeing as he technically had a fall from grace as well. Moving on though, it's time to finally get into the Gin is Gojo dynamic. And in order to fully get how these two served a damn near identical purpose, first we need to understand what their goals were against the main antagonists of their respective arcs. works. Gojo's mission in the battle against Sukuna was obviously to win. Their battle lasted 13 straight chapters, and it was an all-out battle where everything was put on the line, and the two combatants at almost every moment went straight for the throat. However, in the end, even though the goal was to win, and even though his final attack was probably the most devastating move we've ever seen thrown against Sukuna, the Honored One eventually lost to the King of Curses, leaving it all up to the next generation that he had actually slowly been preparing in the background. Now, when we take a look at Gin, his goal the entire time he was teamed up with Aizen was to figure out how Kyoka Suigetsu worked. Then find the perfect opportunity to strike and defeat him using the power of his own Bankai. However, if that didn't work, Gin had a backup plan. That plan being one Ichigo Kurosaki, because in the battle between the former captain and Kurosaki, Gin recognized the massive amount of potential that Ichigo had, and knew that he could grow to a point where matching Aizen in strength and even surpassing him was attainable. But in order for that to be achieved, Ichigo needed to understand the difference in their power, as well as needing a push to start the process of his own evolution, eventually leading to the Dangai form being a thing, which had to come into play because ultimately, even though his final attack was probably the most devastating move we've ever seen up until that point thrown against Aizen, in the end, he ultimately lost, leaving it all up to the next generation that he had slowly been preparing in the background. And as far as how Yuji is Ichigo in this instance, I feel like the comparisons and similar evolutions between those two could be its own video. Ichigo and Yuji are the next generation that both Gin and Gojo were betting on if they lost. Now, as far as how this relates to Gojo not coming back, well, Gin understood in his final moments that he was no longer needed because of how far Ichigo had grown. In the same vein, from the jump we knew that Gojo had been cultivating and training students to take over, and even though he wanted to win against Sukuna, he fought with all he had and it wasn't enough. But at the end of the day, he was smiling because he gave it his all, and the students he left behind could handle the rest, meaning he was no longer needed. And after seeing how potent and unbreakable the cast has been in their battle against Sukuna, in addition to how much damage this man has received, it's more than likely that this is something they can handle without him. As to what the finishing blow will be though, I have no clue. If Aizen was defeated with the final Getsuga Tensho, and Yuji is chosen by the Black Sparks, maybe Yuji's domain will be something akin to a final Black Flash. I don't know. But anyways, ladies and gents, I believe that's going to do it for this one. I hope that you all enjoyed. If you did, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with notifications on. And while you're down there commenting, let me know. How do you think Sukuna loses? But I will see you all in the next one. Peace out, everybody.